The alien research station floated in the cold darkness of space, a silent ring of steel and glass orbiting a dying red star. Inside, everything was quiet until the alarm began to scream. Red lights flashed across the laboratory walls. Strange? Symbols danced over the glass panels as alien scientists rushed in from every direction. Their voices were sharp, tense, speaking in a language of clicks and hums. Something had gone very, very wrong. Dr. Vara, the station's chief xenobiologist, pushed through the crowd. Her green skin shimmered under the lab lights, and her long, narrow eyes scanned the chaos. What happened? She demanded. An assistant pointed to the microscope in the center of the room. The sample, you need to see it. Vora stepped forward. The microscope was still warm from use. She bent down, peering into the eyepiece. At first, she saw nothing unusual, just a cluster of red blood cells drifting in plasma. But then her gaze froze. Inside the cells, faint shapes glimmered like tiny shards of crystal. Each fragment pulsed with a dull red glow, as if alive. She adjusted the focus. Her eyes widened. The crystals were not random shapes at all. They were structured, symmetrical, and radiating energy far beyond anything natural. The energy reading on the nearby monitor spiked wildly. This is impossible, she whispered. One of the younger scientists leaned over her shoulder. The readings are correct, Doctor. We scanned the sample 3 times. The power inside these particles is beyond measurement. Vora straightened slowly, her throat tight. Where did this come from? The assistant hesitated. It's from the prisoner. The lab went silent. In the far corner, behind a heavy glass wall, stood a figure, tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in torn, dirt-stained clothing. The prisoner's hands were bound, but his eyes were calm, even bored. His skin was pale, and faint scratches marked his forearms. Dried blood clung to the edges of the wounds. Human, the first the station had ever captured alive. Vora turned back to the microscope, her mind racing. The energy inside this blood was unlike anything in the known galaxy. If the readings were accurate, even a drop could vaporize a city. A vial could destroy a planet. And yet, it was flowing through this human's veins as if it were nothing. What is the substance? Another scientist asked, his voice trembling. Vora glanced at the energy display again. Not a substance, she said softly. A weapon. The most dangerous material ever recorded. The room seemed to grow colder. A senior technician stepped forward. We have checked every database. Nothing like this exists in galactic history. We're calling it hematite. Hematite. Vora repeated, the name heavy on her tongue. She could feel the weight of what it meant. Wars had been fought over far less. The younger scientist spoke again, his voice urgent. Doctor, if the council learns about this, they will. Vora interrupted. And when they do, they will want every human destroyed. The prisoner shifted slightly, as if sensing the tension in the room. His eyes met Vora's through the glass. There was no fear in them, only a faint, knowing smile. A shiver ran down her spine. Did he already know? Before she could think further, the station's intercom blared to life. Security alert, Section 3 containment breach. All personnel. To lock down positions. The floor trembled under their feet. From somewhere deep in the station came the sound of heavy footsteps. Too loud, too fast to be normal. Vora turned to the assistant. What's happening? The alien's face was pale. The prisoner. He's bleeding again. On the monitor beside the microscope, the magnified blood cells shifted and swirled. The hematite fragments glowed brighter, pulsing like tiny hearts. The power reading climbed higher. And higher. If the containment failed, if even a few drops escaped, seal the lab. Vora ordered. The doors slid shut with a hiss. Alarms wailed louder. Through the glass, she saw the human's restraints fall away, one by one, as if some invisible force had unlocked them. He stepped forward slowly, deliberately. The scratches on his arms reopened, thin lines of crimson running down to his fingertips. The red light from the hematite crystals seemed to pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat. The scientist stepped back in fear. Vora could feel it too, the heat, the strange pressure in the air. Like standing too close to a star, the human spoke for the first time, his voice deep and steady. "You shouldn't have looked inside my blood," her breath caught. The words were simple, but the meaning was terrifying. The station shook again, harder this time. Somewhere far away, metal tore like paper. Vora glanced at the microscope one last time. The red cells and glowing crystals swirled together, and for a brief moment, she thought she saw something else, a shape forming inside the glow. A skull. She backed away slowly. The human's eyes never left hers. Outside, the alarms reached a fever pitch. The voice of the intercom broke apart with static. "Emergency. Evacuation containment failure." Vora didn't wait to hear the rest. The truth was already clear. They had found the galaxy's most lethal material. And it was alive. The alarms didn't stop. Through the sealed lab doors, the sound of boots pounding against metal echoed like war drums. The station was in chaos. Orders barked through the intercom were half lost in static, voices overlapping. In fear, Dr. Vora stood frozen, eyes locked on the human. He stood calm in the middle of the containment chamber, blood running down his arms in thin, shining streams. The glow from the hematite inside him made the wounds seem like lines of burning light. She remembered the first time she had ever heard of humans. It was 3 cycles ago, in the aftermath of a border skirmish between her people, the Zaith, and the Uran Empire. The conflict had been nothing unusual, 2 alien races fighting over an asteroid belt rich in mining materials. But in the middle of the war, a rumor had spread through the fleets. The story was simple. A single Uran soldier had been cut by a primitive human blade during a minor encounter on a remote moon. Within minutes, the soldier was dead. The cause of death had been impossible to explain: total neural shutdown, organ collapse, and molecular disintegration. Most dismissed the rumor as battlefield exaggeration. Every war had its myths, and humans were barely known at the time. A young species, barely spacefaring, stuck on the edges of the Orion Arm. But Vora had been curious. She had begun collecting reports, tiny fragments of information. A cargo ship boarded by humans vanished after contact. A planetary survey team reported sudden illness after shaking hands with one. And always, there was the same strange detail. In every case, there had been blood, now staring at the human. In front of her, she knew the rumors had been true. The lab door behind her hissed open. 2 Zaith security officers stormed in, weapons raised. Their armor shimmered with energy shields. "Step away from the specimen," one of them ordered. Vora's mind raced. If they shot him, his blood would spill. If it spilled here, the human tilted his head as if listening to something only he could hear. Then, without warning, the lights flickered. The station's hum of engines dropped to a low, uneasy groan. The officers glanced around. "What's happening?" The human smiled faintly. "You've never met one of us before, have you?" The taller officer stepped forward. "You will submit." He never finished the sentence. The human moved faster than Vora's eyes could follow. A single step forward, a blur of motion, and the officer's weapon clattered to the floor. A thin cut opened on the alien's wrist. The wound sizzled, and in less than 2 seconds, his entire body collapsed into a cloud of fine, gray dust. The second officer froze in horror. Vora's voice cut through the silence. "Don't move. Don't attack him." The human looked at her. Again, his eyes calm but sharp. You understand. She swallowed hard. Hematite. It's in your blood. He didn't confirm or deny. He simply said, we never asked for it. We were born with it. The second officer backed away toward the door. The council must know. No, Vora snapped, but it was too late. The officer hit his comms, sending a short burst transmission. Before running out, the human stepped closer to the glass barrier. You think your council will contain this? They will come for us, all of us, and we will not go quietly. Vora hesitated. Part of her training screamed to secure the subject, extract samples, and wait for orders. But another part, the part that had been watching this creature with a scientist's fascination, knew the truth. If the council moved against humans, the galaxy might burn. The intercom crackled. Dr. Vora, this is command. All security. Teams are to converge on your location. Do not allow the human to escape. She looked back at the prisoner. If they take you, they won't, he said simply. But you will need to decide whose side you're on. A deep vibration rolled through the floor. The sound of distant explosions reached them, faint but growing. The station was under attack. Vora glanced at the ceiling. External forces? The human's faint smile widened. Not exactly. Some of my people followed me here. Her eyes widened. You mean there are more humans? Yes, he interrupted. And they know what you found. The lab's control panel lit up with urgent warnings. Hull breaches. On multiple decks, power fluctuations, weapons fire inside the docking bay. The human placed his hand against the glass. His blood smeared in a crimson streak, glowing faintly. Open this door, Doctor, or you will all die when they reach this lab. Vora hesitated only a second. She keyed the release. The barrier slid open with a hiss. The human stepped out, towering. Over her, his presence radiating heat and a strange pressure in the air. You've just made a choice, he said. I don't even know your name, she replied. Call me Carter, he said. Another explosion shook the lab, closer this time. Smoke began to seep in from the corridor. Vora glanced toward the exit. If your people are here, they won't be gentle. They're not here to be gentle, Carter said. They're here to make sure the galaxy never learns the truth about us. The way he said it made her stomach tighten. She realized this was no rescue mission. It was a cleanup operation, and she was now part of it. The great chamber of the Galactic Council was shaped like a star. From above, its 5 glowing arms stretched toward the curved walls, each arm holding seats for dozens of alien delegates. Hundreds of species were present, some tall and insect-like, others covered in scales, some floating in shimmering energy shells. In the center of the chamber, a holographic projection spun slowly, the image of a human blood cell glowing with red light. Inside it, the deadly shards of hematite pulsed in rhythm, like a heartbeat. The sound of murmurs filled the air. Council speaker Dren, a towering being with silver skin and eyes like cold moons, struck the central gong. The sound echoed across the chamber, silencing all conversation. You have all seen the recordings, Dren began. His voice was deep and measured, but beneath it there was tension. 3 cycles ago, a specimen was captured. A human. In its blood was found a material with destructive potential beyond any weapon we know. The hologram zoomed in, magnifying the hematite crystals. The red glow filled the chamber, making some delegates shift uncomfortably. This material, Dren continued, can destabilize molecular bonds in any living tissue. A single drop can kill instantly. A vial could destroy cities. In large quantities, he paused, letting the silence stretch. Entire worlds could fall. Gasps and low hisses rippled through the chamber. A delegate from the insectoid. Kresh clicked her mandibles. And you say they carry this inside their own bodies? All of them? A scientist in the lower circle nodded. Our analysis confirms it. Every human, from birth, carries hematite in their blood. It does not harm them. We do not yet understand why. Another voice, low and harsh, rose from the shadows of the Revar seat. If they all carry it, then they are all weapons. Living weapons. That is not entirely accurate, the scientist protested. The material is stable inside humans. It only becomes dangerous when they bleed, the Revar delegate finished coldly. When they bleed, they kill. The chamber fell silent. Speaker Dren raised his voice. We must decide what to do. The human homeworld Earth is still primitive by galactic standards. But they are expanding. Their ships have reached our border systems. They are learning faster than any species we have recorded. The Kresh delegate clicked again. If they discover the true nature of their blood, they could weaponize it. No force in the galaxy could stand against them. A tall, cloaked figure from the Vet Consortium leaned forward. Then the answer is clear. Remove them, all of them, before it is too late. A murmur of agreement rose. Others shook their heads in protest. From the aquatic sector, the mere representative's voice gurgled through a translator. Extermination is not the only path. If they remain ignorant, they pose no threat. We could isolate their world, block their expansion, and monitor them closely. That is naive, the Revar delegate snapped. Ignorance does not last. One of them already escaped containment during the incident on the Zaith station. It is only a matter of time before they learn. The hologram shifted, now showing the recording from the station. Carter, stepping through the lab door, eyes calm, movements precise. The moment he touched the Zaith officer, the alien's body crumbled into dust. Gasps echoed again. Observe, Dren said. No device, no weapon, only contact. From the back rows, a younger delegate spoke hesitantly. And yet, they are still just flesh and bone. Can they be killed? Dren's gaze swept the chamber. Yes, but to kill them is to spill their blood. And to spill their blood is to risk everything. The meaning sank into the room like a cold stone dropped into deep water. The Kresh delegate hissed. Then even a battle with them could doom us. Speaker Dren struck the gong again. We will now vote. Two paths lie before us, containment or eradication. Holopanels lit up in front of each delegate. Some hands moved quickly. Others hesitated. As the vote streamed in, the chamber's air grew heavier. When the count was complete, Dren's expression revealed the result before he spoke. By a narrow margin, he announced, the council votes. For eradication, voices rose at once, some in approval, some in outrage. The mere representative slammed a fin against the water-filled tank. This is madness. To strike first is to start a war that cannot be won. The Revar delegates' voice cut through. It will not be a war if it ends before it begins. Dren silenced them with another gong. The order will be carried out quietly. Strike teams will move to eliminate human leadership and research facilities. Earth's ships will be destroyed before they can leave their system. This must be done before the humans know why. The Kresh delegate added with a cold click, and if they resist? Dren's eyes darkened. Then we burn the world. In the shadows of the chamber, a hooded figure turned and slipped out a side door. Her movements were careful, quiet, unseen by most. But she had heard everything. Dr. Vora's heart pounded. In her chest. She had arrived on the council world only hours earlier, summoned to give her report. She had hoped, foolishly, that the council would choose containment. But now she knew the truth. If she did nothing, Carter, his people, and the entire human race would be hunted down. And she also knew something the council did not. Humans were not as ignorant as they believed. The rain hit the city like falling. Nails. Carter walked quickly along the narrow streets, hood up, trying to ignore the cold drops rolling down his neck. Neon signs flickered in the fog, reflecting on the puddles under his boots. The city looked normal. People moving, cars humming, life going on. But Carter knew better. They were here. He could feel it. He passed a shop window and caught his reflection. Same messy dark hair. Same tired eyes. Same face that had been plastered across alien wanted lists on 100 worlds, though here on Earth no one knew that. Not yet. It had been 2 months since the escape from the Zaith station. 2 months since Dr. Vora had opened the containment door and stepped into the storm with him. She had vanished into the shadows of the galaxy, hiding from her own kind. Carter had come home, but home wasn't safe anymore. He ducked into a small cafe, shaking the rain from his jacket. The smell of coffee wrapped around him, warm and human. At the back table, a man in a leather coat looked up and nodded. "Carter," the man said quietly. "You're late," Carter sat across from him. "Traffic," he said. "And I had to make sure no one followed me." The man slid a thin tablet across the table. "You need to see this." The screen lit up with grainy satellite images. 3 objects, black as obsidian, drifted high above Earth's atmosphere. No lights, no heat signatures, but they were there. Carter's jaw tightened. "Council ships," the man nodded. "They've been watching for weeks, and now they've sent ground teams, disguised as people. We've picked up at least 5 in the city." Carter glanced around the cafe. No one was looking at them, but he knew better than to trust appearances. "What's their plan?" he asked. The man's voice dropped. "We intercepted part of a transmission. They're here to take out human scientists, engineers, anyone they think could figure out what's in our blood." Carter's hand tightened on the tablet. "Then they know more than I thought." "They don't know everything," the man said. "Not yet, but they will, unless—" He leaned closer. "We get to them first." Carter looked out the window at the rain-slick street. In the reflection for a moment, he thought he saw a figure standing across the road, unmoving, watching him. But when he turned, the figure was gone. He pushed the tablet back toward the man. "Send me the list of names. I'll handle it." The man frowned. "Alone?" Carter stood. "Less noise that way." Outside, the rain hadn't stopped. It never did this time of year. Carter pulled his hood back up and started walking toward the old industrial district. He didn't make it halfway before someone fell into step beside him. "Your people have a way of hiding," a familiar voice said. Carter turned. Dr. Vora walked beside him, hooded against the rain. Her green skin was pale under the streetlights. "You followed me here?" he asked. "I followed the ones who followed you," she said simply. "The council is moving faster than I expected." "The order has been given." Carter's eyes narrowed. "Eradication," she nodded once. "The first teams are already in place. They will strike before sunrise." He stopped in the middle of the sidewalk. "Then we don't have much time." Vora's eyes searched his face. "You're not going to run, are you?" "No," he said. "If they want a fight, they'll get one. But we do this my way." They moved quickly through the empty streets, cutting into a warehouse by the river. Inside, Carter flipped on a single hanging light. Shadows stretched across the walls, revealing rows of crates and old machinery. "This place is off the grid," he said. "We can use it." Vora glanced at the crates. "What's inside?" Carter pried one open. Inside were old weapons. Rifles, blades, explosives, human tech. Nothing the council would consider dangerous. But in Carter's hands, anything could be dangerous. Vora touched the edge of a blade, pulling back quickly as the metal nicked her finger. She stared at the drop of her own green blood. "If I were human, You'd be dead now, wouldn't you? Yes, Carter said. Her eyes lifted to meet his. Then maybe your people really are the galaxy's most dangerous species. Maybe, Carter said quietly. But we didn't start this. The sound of footsteps on the roof cut through the silence. Both froze. Carter moved to the side door, pressing himself against the wall. The footsteps grew louder, then stopped. Vora whispered, "They've found us." Carter's voice was calm. "Good. Saves us the trouble of finding them." The metal roof groaned under shifting weight. Then, a sudden crash. A black armored figure dropped through the skylight, landing in a crouch. Its helmet hit its face. But Carter recognized the sleek design of Council assassins. The intruder moved fast, raising a weapon. Carter didn't give him the chance to fire. He lunged forward, blade flashing in the dim light. The assassin dodged, but Carter's blade caught the edge of its arm. The effect was instant. Where the blade had cut, a smear of Carter's blood shone red, and the assassin convulsed, weapon clattering to the floor. In seconds, the body dissolved into dust. Vora stared at the empty space where the alien had stood. "I've seen the scans, but seeing it in person," Carter turned toward the roof. "That was just the first. More are coming." Vora's voice was low. "How many?" He checked the blade, eyes cold. "Enough to make this city burn if we don't stop them." The warehouse stank of gun oil and rain. Carter didn't wait for the next attacker. He grabbed Vora's arm and pulled her toward the back exit. "We can't fight them all in here," he said. "They'll surround us," she warned. "They'll try," he replied. They burst out into the alley, the wet pavement gleaming under the flicker of a single street lamp. Behind them, shadows moved inside the warehouse. More assassins dropping through the roof, their weapons glowing faintly blue. Carter kept his pace steady but fast. Vora followed, glancing over her shoulder. The assassins didn't rush. They advanced like predators who knew their prey couldn't escape. At the end of the alley, Carter stopped. The way forward was blocked by a sleek black hovercraft. 2. More Council soldiers stepped out, armor slick with rain. Carter didn't slow. "Stay close," he told Vora. The soldiers raised their rifles. Blue light flared at the barrels, and then Carter was already moving. He stepped into the first shot, twisting aside so it passed him by inches. His blade flashed once, twice. One soldier dropped instantly, dissolving into a thin mist as Carter's blood on the blade burned through him. The second fired wildly, but Carter closed the gap and shoved the soldier back into the hovercraft. The alien's armor cracked against the metal. The soldier's helmet rolled away, revealing dark green eyes that widened in terror. You're... Carter didn't let him finish. One quick slash and the fight was over. Vora stared at him, her voice low. "You fight like you've been doing this your whole life." He didn't look back. "I have." They jumped into the hovercraft. Carter took the controls, the craft lifting smoothly off the ground. The city fell away beneath them, lights blurring in the rain. Only when they were several blocks away did Vora speak again. "You need to know what they're afraid of." Carter kept his eyes on the sky. "I already know. Hematite. My blood." "That's only part of it," she said. "Do you know how it got there?" He glanced at her. "You're about to tell me." She nodded. "Long before my species traveled the stars, there was a war. Not between nations, but between life and something else. A parasite. It fed on energy, not matter. It destroyed entire biospheres. The old races, the ones who rule the galaxy, before us, created a weapon to kill it. They made it by fusing energy crystals with living cells." Carter's hands tightened on the controls. Vora continued. "It worked. The parasite was wiped out, but the weapon couldn't be removed from the species they had altered. Over thousands of years, Those altered beings changed, evolved. The old races vanished, and the altered species was forgotten. Until now, Carter's voice was steady. And that species is us. Yes, Vora said quietly. Earth was seeded with life long ago, but only your kind carried the weapon fully in your blood. And you've lived with it so long, it's become part of you. Harmless to you, fatal to everyone else, Carter exhaled slowly. So it's not a curse. It's a gift. A gift the galaxy will not allow to exist, she said. Because, in their eyes, you're a threat greater than any army. The hovercraft shuddered as a blast hit the rear. Blue light flared across the dashboard. They found us, Carter said. Vora turned in her seat. A sleek black ship was closing fast, its weapons glowing. Carter pushed the controls hard, diving between two high towers. The craft skimmed so close to the buildings that rain from the rooftops sprayed across the canopy. The pursuing ship fired. Again, the beam slicing through the air just behind them. They won't stop. Vora shouted over the engine's roar. I know, Carter said. That's why we're not going to run anymore. He banked sharply, spinning the hovercraft until they were face to face with the pursuing ship. The enemy didn't expect it. Their weapons were still charging when Carter rammed forward. The impact threw both ships into a spiral. Carter's hovercraft slammed against the side of the enemy vessel, scraping metal on metal. He jumped from the pilot's seat, landing on the hull. Rain pounded against his back. The enemy's cockpit was just ahead. Carter pulled his blade, slashed through the glass, and dropped inside. The pilot turned and froze at the sight of blood dripping from Carter's hand. No. The alien whispered "yes," Carter said. He touched the pilot's shoulder. The reaction was instant. The alien dissolved into dust, the ship losing all control. Carter leaped back to his own craft as the enemy vessel crashed into the side of a tower in a burst of fire and debris. Vora's eyes were wide when he landed. Back in the pilot's seat, you're not just defending yourself. You're sending a message. That's right, Carter said, steering them toward the dark edge of the city. If they want to come for us, they'd better understand the cost. The hovercraft sped into the rain, disappearing into the night. Behind them, the city sirens began to wail. The stars above Earth were no longer safe. Carter sat in the cockpit of a stolen freighter, his hands steady on the controls. Beside him, Dr. Vora was hunched over the navigation console, eyes scanning endless streams of alien coordinates. The ship's engines groaned as they punched through the black void, leaving the blue curve of Earth behind. They'll follow, Carter said quietly. They already are, Vora replied without looking up. 3 ships. Council hunters. Fast ones? Carter adjusted the trajectory. How long until they catch us? Hours, maybe less. The hum of the ship was broken by a sudden ping from the scanner. Vora's face darkened. Make that 4 ships. Carter leaned back in his seat, eyes fixed on the stars ahead. Then we keep moving. They jumped to hyperspace. The universe stretched into streaks of light, the ship's hull trembling with the strain. But the moment they dropped out, the hunters were there, sleek black warships, sliding out of the void like predators emerging from the deep. They're faster than I thought, Vora muttered. They're desperate, Carter said. And desperate hunters make mistakes. The chase began in the shadow of a giant red gas planet. Carter weaved the freighter between its swirling storms, the crimson clouds boiling like oceans of fire. Lightning forked through the atmosphere, flashing against the hull. The hunters stayed close. Blue beams of plasma lanced past, searing the freighter's shields. One shot struck the rear engine, sending a shudder through the entire ship. Shields! At 60%. Vora called out. Carter pushed the freighter lower into the gas giant's storms. Let's see if they like flying blind. Clouds swallowed them whole. Visibility dropped to nothing. The ship's sensors screamed warnings, but Carter trusted his instincts. Skimming just above the violent storm layer, 2 hunters followed, and then one vanished from the radar, swallowed by a vortex big enough to crush a city. Vora allowed herself the smallest smile. 1 down. They escaped the gas giant's pull and aimed for a nearby asteroid belt. The rocks spun slowly in the darkness, glittering with reflected starlight. Carter threaded the freighter between them, using the larger asteroids for cover. The hunters fired, but their shots hit only rock and ice. Carter banked sharply, and one hunter miscalculated, smashing into an asteroid, its ship breaking apart in a silent flash. 2 down, Carter said. The remaining 2 hunters pulled back slightly, keeping distance now. But Vora's scanners lit up again. "They've called for reinforcements," she warned. "We have at least 5 more ships inbound." Carter didn't look worried. "Good. Let's make them all come." They fled to the edge of a dying star system where the solar wind screamed through the void. Debris from long-dead worlds drifted here. Shattered moons, frozen continents, the bones of ancient stations. Carter cut the freighter's main engines and let it drift into the debris field. "We hide here for now," Vora frowned. "You think they won't find us?" "Oh, they'll find us," Carter said. "But they won't find us unprepared." Hours passed in silence. The glow of the dying star painted everything a sickly red. Carter sat sharpening his blade while Vora worked on a small device pulled from the ship's cargo hold. Finally, the scanners flashed. The hunters were here. 6 ships this time, moving cautiously between the drifting debris. Carter stood, fastening the blade to his belt. "When I signal, drop the device." "What will it do?" Vora asked. "Make them regret following us." The first hunter ship drifted close, scanning the freighter's empty heat signature. The others moved in to surround it. Carter stepped to the freighter's side hatch and hit the manual release. The door opened to the void, his suit sealing automatically. He kicked off into space, floating toward the nearest hunter like a shadow. Among the wreckage, the ship's pilot didn't notice him until it was too late. Carter landed on the hull, slicing through the outer panel. A few drops of his blood smeared on the metal, and the effect was immediate. The entire panel corroded in seconds, the infection spreading like fire across the hull. Inside, the crew's screams were silent in the vacuum as their ship dissolved into dust. Vora saw the signal on her screen and activated the device. Small spheres shot out from the freighter, floating toward the other hunters. The hunters, thinking they were mines, fired to destroy them. But that was their mistake. Each sphere burst, releasing clouds of fine red mist. The mist wasn't ordinary. It was Carter's blood, carefully sealed and mixed with nanofibers to keep it alive in the void. The moment it touched a ship's hull, the hematite went to work. 3 more hunters vanished in moments, eaten away from the outside in. The last 2 ships turned tail and jumped to hyperspace. Vora stared at Carter as he returned to the freighter. "You used your own blood as a weapon," Carter shrugged. "It's what they're afraid of, isn't it?" "It's more than that," she said softly. "You've shown them what humans can do when they fight back. They'll send more. They'll send everything they have." Carter's gaze was steady. "Then we'll keep taking it away from them." The freighter's engines roared to life. They jumped into hyperspace again, disappearing into the endless black. The council world floated like a jewel in the black, its silver towers rising from oceans of blue, shining under the light of 3 suns. From orbit, it looked peaceful. From the inside, Carter knew it was the heart of the galaxy's greatest fear. The stolen freighter drifted toward the planet's upper atmosphere, its ID signal masked by codes Vora had stolen from her own people. Inside the cockpit, Carter sat in silence. His jaw set. "You don't have to go down there," Vora said. "Yes, I do," he replied. "This ends today." Vora's eyes narrowed. "The Council will never agree to peace. Not after what they've seen you do." "They don't have to agree to peace," Carter said. "They just have to understand the cost of war." They landed on a floating platform high above the ocean. The council chamber's entrance loomed ahead, a massive arch of black stone carved with the history of 1,000 alien empires. Guards in silver armor stood at attention, weapons ready. Carter walked forward without slowing. The guards hesitated, glancing at Vora, who gave them a subtle nod. They stepped aside. Inside, the chamber was just as he remembered from Vora's recordings, vast, circular, and filled with rows of alien delegates. Hundreds of eyes turned toward him as he stepped into the center. Speaker Dren's voice cut through the silence. "Human." Carter met his gaze. "You've been sending assassins, ships, and armies after me and my people. You've decided we're too dangerous to live. I'm here to tell you that if you keep pushing, you won't win. No one will." The chamber erupted in murmurs. Some laughed, a sharp metallic sound from the insectoid creche. Others hissed or rumbled in disapproval. The Rivar delegate leaned forward, his voice cold. "And if we decide to destroy you now?" Carter's eyes didn't waver. "You can try. But you've seen what happens when my blood spills. You've lost ships, soldiers, entire strike teams. And those were just the ones that came after me. Imagine what happens if every human in the galaxy knows the truth." The murmurs grew louder. Dren struck the gong for silence. "You threaten the council in its own chamber?" "No," Carter said. "I'm offering you a choice." He pulled a small vial from his jacket. Inside, a drop of his blood floated in clear suspension, glowing faintly red. Even from a distance, the delegates leaned back instinctively. "This," Carter said, holding it up, "is one drop, a single cut. It can destroy a ship in seconds. I'm not the only one who carries it. Every human does. You've been so afraid of us learning the truth, but the truth is, we didn't ask for this. We were born with it." The Muir representative gurgled through his translator. "What do you want?" Carter looked around the chamber. "Leave. U.S. alone. No more assassins. No more ships in our skies. No interference with Earth or our colonies. In return, we keep our secret. We don't weaponize it. We don't spread it. And if we refuse?" The creche delegate clicked. Carter's tone didn't change. "Then I walk out of here, and within a year, every human will know what's in their veins. And then you won't be fighting me. You'll be fighting billions." The silence was heavy. Dren's silver eyes studied him for a long time. "You would risk the galaxy for your species' survival, wouldn't you?" Carter asked. Vora stepped forward then, speaking for the first time. "I was there when we found it in his blood. I know what it means. And I tell you this, if you make war on humans, it will not end the way you think. It will not end at all." Some delegates whispered urgently to one another. Others stared at Carter with unreadable expressions. Finally, Dren spoke. "We cannot vote on this without debate. You will remain here until the decision is made." Carter shook his head. "No, you have 1 hour. After that, I'm gone, and my decision is made." He turned his back on the most powerful beings in the galaxy and walked out. They waited on the platform under the pale light of the suns. Vora paced, her hands twisting. "They might choose war anyway." "They might," Carter said. "And if they do?" He glanced toward the ocean, where massive waves crashed against the base of the floating city. "Then we make sure they understand what it feels like to bleed." The hour passed slowly. Finally, a messenger arrived, a thin, nervous being with blue skin and trembling hands. "The council," the messenger began. has decided on non-interference. Earth will remain independent. The order for eradication is rescinded. Vora let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. Carter only nodded. Good. Tell them if they keep their word, so will we. The messenger bowed and left. Vora turned to Carter. You did it. No, he said quietly. We bought time. That's all? They walked back toward the freighter. Behind them, the council world gleamed under its suns, beautiful, dangerous, and still watching Dot as the ship rose into the black. Carter looked down at the vial in his hand. The single drop of glowing blood caught the light, somewhere deep in his chest. He knew this wasn't the end. Sooner or later, someone would break the agreement, and when that happened, humanity would be ready.